Everything's a go. I repeat, everything's a go. Video looks good. It's good enough to start anyways. Okay, let's go. Harry, you are reading Half Nader to the Ramparts by 7 Stars Press. As I glanced over the clippings, I began to conceive of a project for this book. I have already spoken and written about the dismaying change in American newscasting, whereby only the most recent flashy events are covered, and worse, are explained by superficial reference to other recent events. Trump's success in his presidential run is ascribed to stupefied voters, or Hillary's lackluster performance, or the economic malaise of the working class. No digging beyond the topsoil. Okay, since I've read a little bit ahead, I can prepare my arguments a little bit, but in the future, after about page 100, I won't be ahead, and I don't think I'm going to read ahead. The fresh take probably will be better, because even right now I already knew what I was going to dig into him about from what I've read so far. As I glance over the clippings, he had a concept for this book, so reading his newspaper with his Underwood in front of him, he's thinking about, all right, I need to speak up. Good for you, Ralph Nader. Dismaying change in American newscasting, and this is for concentration of power and authority, which are going to get back to anarchist principles, open source, healthy market principles, deep ecology principles, in nature or in systems. But no digging. But right now he's claiming umbrage. He's getting mad at the superficiality of media. Okay, we'll follow you there, Nader. Folks, it's below the topsoil that the real causes lurk. It's there that the groundwater percolates, man. In this book, I'll examine some profound causes that brought us Trump. Sure, he got quite a few voters to believe his hype. But was that because they were desperate, or was it because they didn't see Hillary as representing their interests, man? And if the latter was the case, bro, was that because Hillary was an unsympathetic person who didn't project a caring, I feel your pain attitude in the manner of a husband? Or was it because she was not putting herself behind the people's agenda? And if the latter, was this a recent phenomenon, or was it presaged by an equally Mandarin, albeit better concealed viewpoint held by Obama? Is it albeit? Is it albeit? I like saying albeit because it sounds European. What is he saying here? Go beyond the topsoil. He generally, later on in the book I noticed this too, he generalizes a lot when he says, like, sure, he got quite a few voters to believe the hype. It's like, you can't simplify Trump's campaign like this. Your whole argument yourself is that they're disaffected voters who weren't being spoken to by the Democrats. And so we don't have to have that general, like, people believe the hype. No, this was all emotional shit. Trump's a very hard person to vote for. If you ask any of his supporters, there's some cute girls out there, cute girls outside the phone booth. Stay calm, Sash, stay calm. But if someone knocks on the phone booth, I'm going to tell them I'm busy. I'm busy working to save America, ladies. And I wish you best as you continue on your day. I must get back to work. So now he sent up the argument Hillary had to put herself behind the people's agenda. Yeah, but Hillary has some baggage. No, she has some baggage. And then he mentions Mandarin. Mandarin is like Mandarin candidate. That's like he drops these little bombs. It's like you can tell he really wants to fucking go off, but it's like fucking some passive aggressive shit going on. Next paragraph. One thing that elected Trump, as everyone agrees, was the voters' sense of a total disillusionment with Washington politicians. But the faces on TV make it sound like this disillusionment is perennial as complaints about the weather. Not so. Kind of like so. I mean, my argument's going to be that American empires in general, the whole Enlightenment age and liberalism, all of that was empire. We just have empire with more and more sophisticated, technical... Oh shit. Something's going on outside because this is a public place and we have a large homeless problem in New York City, which is really a mental health problem, and some mental health is happening outside real quick. But yeah, that's what it is. It's the disillusionment is a perennial problem because empire, ever since we capped Congress at 435 delegates in like 1913, yeah, the same year we passed the first income tax, or was it 2 years afterwards, around that same era, and then right before World War I, then World War II. We've had a century of bullshit. The 20th century has been a century of bullshit after they capped America's democratic impulse before it could even start. Fuck the internet and everything else. It's ever since we've started actually capping our democratic impulse and then concentrating power and then empowering that concentrated power with a federal income tax that could go. That's the startup money for empire right there. Beginning of the 20th century, startup money for empire. So yeah, no, Nader's not seeing the bigger picture. He's acting like 1968 was a great time. He'll bring that up a lot. He hasn't yet, I don't think. And that was the fucking year that the Democrats fucking in the streets of Chicago beat their own base for being anti-war. This shit's been rotten for a while, but that's what it is. There's a certain type of progressive on the left, or even on the right, who harken back to a good old time. So you got to get to the source, though, the heart of this fucking systemic shit. It's empire. We were the nation built on and fetishizing empire from the beginning. It's just become no longer. It's becoming suicidal, just like our global warming. Our lifestyle is becoming a little bit dangerous for everyone involved. Back to this. My reading of the past few years is that this disenchantment is neither ever present nor without cause. I disagree with you there. Sure, Trump profited big time from it, but he hardly caused it. Sure, Republicans holding their noses got in line behind Trump, but again, I don't cite them for the voters' discouragement. No, the voters' sense of abandonment rests solidly on the shoulders of the Democrats, who let them down big time. He's acting like this is the first time. This is the nature of the fucking cycle of the beast. Come on. It's like Clinton, you're going to go back to where there is no golden era. I feel like when these people they're so smart and they've been doing this all their life, and yet they stop at certain timelines. Like, we're just going to analyze how Trump was a product of Obama who continued Bush. It's like, we got to go back to the source. That's why I had to rewrite all the history. You got to actually get to the root cause of these events. The root cause of this democracy we have now is a bottlenecks on democracy imposed. Not that the Constitution would have worked in the first place, but we're making it very hard to make it work when we've kept Congress and done all that other shit to create a unitary executive. I say this because the Democrats are the ones to whom the public has historically looked for progressive change. So he's acting like the two-party system isn't just a power grab in order to keep us all happy. As it's historically, every single century, every single war, we've been, since the Spanish-American War, which was a war of conquest. And then you had, in Congress, they were trying to vote whether we should keep Mexico. We decided not to because they were too racially integrated. Because the South, that would be a great conquest, and it was fucking Southern territory, but Mexico had already outlawed slavery. So they were a little bit ahead of us in the civilized fucking category, to the point that we didn't even want the whole country. We could have had the whole country, and that was argued in Congress. That was what, like 1850s, right before the Civil War, 1830s. So we've had this shit since the founding of the country, pretty much. Any parties that come up were with that imperial bent, causing fucking destruction all around the world, because that's what we've glorified. The ancient Rome, ancient Greece, empires. We haven't evolved past that stage in humanity, and we are just reaping the consequences of that type of thinking. Unless Nader challenges that type of thinking. So he says, we're the one that the public has historically looked for progressive change. Come on, dude. Democrat Roosevelt, who ushered the New Deal with public works. That's as deep as he's going to go. That was a response to socialism fucking abroad, which is gaining a lot of traction in Europe, which still has a strong history of social democrats in their political involvement. We don't, but that's because Roosevelt headed them off. But he didn't do it willingly. It was the alternative was a lot worse for the business fucking leadership. Public works program to help the massive unemployment, who established regulations over the banks, brokers, and other industries. How well did that work for us? It was a Democrat, Johnson, who fought for and signed major civil rights laws to counter the disenfranchisement of black people. It was the Democrats who had the people's back and at least tolerated trade unions from 1940s on. So he's starting his lesser of two evils pitch already. Is that at least tolerated trade unions? So is that the language of an idealist? At least Obama isn't Bush. At least the Democrats tolerate trade unions. Fuck that shit. We got the internet now. We got fucking technology. We're going to create actual things that we can believe in. That's why I'm so emotionally invested in this, because I worked to try to put Nader on the ballot in California when I was younger. Because I thought, well, these are people who are saying the truth. As close to the truth as we're hearing out there. But then when you dig deeper and you live a little bit of life, you're like, these guys aren't even trying to fucking win. They're just trying to come in second. Not even second. They're trying to keep whatever fucking thing that they have going on. It's an identity. Whatever they do, this is what they do, but they're not trying to change anything. Or either that or fucking, I don't know. How can I hold it against someone if fucking Ralph Nader's current form is his highest form? Then that's rude of me to hold that against him. Thank you for what you have to offer us, but this isn't going to change the world. But this has given us good insight, and it's foundational research we can build upon. Most of the stuff he says in here, we could reference and research, and then just some of his logic, which keeps him contained within his ideological cage, we're just going to ignore. Step to the side of that shit. Historically, the Republicans were the hard-bidden apostles of the so-called free market and the handmaidens of wealth. It's like, come on, is this fucking subtext for Marxism? What do you believe in here? Do you believe in markets? Do you believe in... Because as far as I can tell, from actually functioning within the economy and then reading a lot about it, markets work and human societies operate by markets. So whether those are captured, like an oligarchy by the few... The markets in America don't work, but it's because they're captured and they're corrupted. But market dynamics do work to distribute goods and services in the economy. That's like almost like natural sciences. Like fucking, anyways. So-called free markets, handmaidens of wealth. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I don't know. Republicans are captured, but so are the Democrats. It's when we get into this, like, Democrats are more or less dirty. The poor women and men pinned few hopes on the Republicans. I hate that fucking emotional shit. It was the Democrats to whom the voting public turned when hankering for fairness, compassion, progressive change. Why? Historically, since we voted for them as lesser two evils, why does that mean that we should keep doing it? And when the Democratic Party fell away from pushing hard for reform, the public fell hard. You know what fucked us up is Obama had such a slick marketing campaign. A lot of people gave him the benefit of the doubt. A lot of people plugged back into the politics. And that's what really fucked us up. And Ralph Nader kind of says that. But he's asking us to buy back into the bullshit. I'm the only person saying that I've heard saying what we should actually do is create our own party. Fuck this shit. Create a direct line to the fucking public, open source party, along with the ethics of the internet, which is open source. You know, fucking just, it's going to be a disruptor. Disrupt this shit. It fell into disillusionment with politicians, and this generalized into such a despair that they were willing to elect as president, reassuring charlatan wrapped in an American flag. Nah, it might be, my theory is that political discourse has become more and more emotionally triggering, and so people are actually just thinking less logically. The people who vote for Trump are logically voting for him with whatever logical faculties they have left. But look at this fucking security guard over here looking at me. Okay, I'm in a motherfucking phone booth and I'm using my motherfucking phone. How am I wrong? How am I dirty? Why the fuck are these things here? He kind of looked at me. It's like smoking crack in there. Motherfucking authority trying to crack down on Shaz the anarchist. Don't you know? I don't work. Anyways, where are we at? Yeah, he's dismissive of, like, I don't think that it's just not what he says it is. People weren't rejecting I mean, they were in a way, but people also are just voting more on emotional lines. Well, and then the people who aren't willing to become emotionally triggered like that, we just sit it out. But he has part of the puzzle. This book will show how Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, and other Democratic leaders in the Obama years turned a deaf ear to many of the cries of the people. This was shown most graphically in that in his 8 years as president, Obama jetted around nearly 500 times to fat cap political fundraisers, where he could glad hand the wealthy, but paid nary a visit to the grassroots to spend learning and galvanizing time with ordinary people on their national civic groups nearby in Washington, D.C. Well, I don't believe Barack Obama is a good person. I thought of a fucking nickname in my head earlier. But anyways, we're going to try to be civil as long as we can hold out trying to be civil. But yeah, he's not a good person, so this whole like, well, it's surprising that Obama did this, surprising. Well, it's not as surprising to me. That's why I fucking... Barack Obama said when he was first coming up to Ralph Nader was trying to influence him about Ralph Nader's work over the years, which, like Chomsky, whether you agree with their approach or not, they gather a lot of information in one place, which is nice for reference. But he came away from their meeting saying Ralph Nader thinks a great deal about Ralph Nader. It's like one egomaniac to another. That's interesting. But here's what I'm not saying. I'm not equating Democratic Party policies with those of the Republicans. Yeah, it's too far for you, Nader. We have to make a distinction here. Why? Which will be outlined in this book. Take the areas which there is continuity between previous Democratic regime in the new Trump administration, such as foreign policy and the Democrats' unwillingness to nail or punish corporate criminals. Set that against where there is a clear difference between parties, as in the Democrats' signing of the Paris Climate Accord and Trump's repudiation of them, or the two administrations' views of civil rights, where Democrats pushing to extend their protection and Trump rolling back. Well, it's weird because the civil rights thing, let's sit down for a little bit. Civil rights thing might be a little bit of victim whoring, where it seems like both political parties, especially in their foreign engagements, find a victim group in order to justify their aggression or their power grabs. Or it might just be buying votes. I feel like a lot of I'm currently in the shelter system and the fucking food stamp system. I feel like some of that is buying votes and poor populations, because it's not really doing them any good if you look generationally over time. It's keeping people alive, which is not bad, but I'm within the system and there's not much compassion or direction. Oh, we'll see. I'm still exploring the system, but I see a lot of lost people in here with me. So yeah, no, I'm not with you there. They're both fucking... We have to throw out both. The Democrats aren't going to save us from running out of time. The world is literally on a suicide watch. So no, fucking, it's done. They have their time to fucking try to be decent. Just one is more stupid than the other. Yeah, I'm not saying all Republicans are stupid, but one of them accepts climate change stuff and one of them doesn't accept scientific knowledge. So, but that's just because the Republicans have relied on... I'm so fucking... Here we go. I'm going to put this down right here. Oh, yeah. No. That's because the Republicans have relied on a lot of the Christian stuff. All right, I'll just hold it for a minute. Here we go. Where are we at? Even with their espousal of environmental and consumer protection, civil rights, Social Security, and elderly Medicare, the Democrats hardly went vigorously on in favor of these progressive values when they were in power. Yeah, because they're not a real political party. It's all mafia type shit. They're just power structures intent on keeping us out of political power. It has to be Democrats, Republicans, instead of independents. They take over the airwaves, they take over the whole fucking conversation. So, Obama's failure to raise the frozen 7.25 per hour minimum wage is just more egregious examples. To put this more graphically, I would say that if I were grading the parties on their ability to deliver on laws that would change the lives on the vast populace for the better, I would flunk both of them. The Democrats would get a D+, and the Republicans an F. Neither could be proud of the record. Yeah, but you want us to join the flunking team then? Come on. All of this is begging for a third party, and yet you fucking won't admit it, because you might just be a fucking coward, Nader. Yeah, I gotta call it as it is. These dudes will toe the line of actual change and reform, but they won't cross it. I don't know why. He's smart enough to see it, right? Shaz, simple little Shaz over here on the sidelines. We read the same books. Let me say it plainly. For success, policy must precede message. You can't win with vote for me. You can only win with... Who the fuck are you to tell me how to win an election, first of all, Ralph Nader? Here are my policies and my records. Vote for me. Come up with authentically backed policies that improve the lives of people, and the public will vote you into power. A lesson seemingly lost to most current Democrats, including their lax leaders. They, policy must... Oh, he's saying, like... What do you mean? Obama won with just fucking talking instead of actual policy. That's the thing, is you need good copy and you need good policy. Nader's like... I don't understand. Nader's using Trump in order to castigate the Democrats by telling them how to win elections when Nader hasn't won anything of note his whole life. Nader has good research, and we share values, I'm pretty sure. All the way up to the point where he's willing to call these systemic powers for what they are. He's not willing to look at the bigger picture or two. But on the smaller stuff, when we actually look at the historic record, a lot of the stuff they say in here about what Obama did and how that laid the groundwork for Trump, that makes sense. But yeah, this is good. So this is capturing that, even though it's going longer than I thought it would, but that's okay. To be in the parlous state we are in, with a predatory, cunning, unstable ignoramus in the White House, there must be deep-rooted causes, not just topsoil ones. The 2 points I will stress are that, as mentioned, but deep-rooted as in how long? He says deep-rooted, but how far are you willing to go back? Because it might be deep-rooted from the founding of our country. But when you come in later on with this founding father bullshit, you're basically saying that I'm not going to question my father. The patriarchy, the mythology which underpins this country. Come on. Did we get it right in the beginning? Do people have a right to govern themselves? And if so, then the current people of the United States have a right to fucking come up with our own rules by which we're going to live. Fucking founding father bullshit. We're not fucking beholden to live by any rules other than the ones we figure out for ourselves. So we should question everything, hold everything up to scrutiny. It's hard to do that with this type of language. Paternalism. So anyways, that would be going below the topsoil. Like a motherfucking Nader over here. The 2 points I will stress are that, as mentioned, the Democrats failed to fully push for a people's agenda, and also, so the Democrats were full of shit. Good job. That's 1 point. And also, of great importance, Obama and the Democratic Party failed to keep the party itself up to fighting strength. So Obama was bitch made. Democrats full of shit. Barack Obama bitch made Obama. I didn't want to use the nickname, and it fucking came out. So it lacked the grassroots organizing and brain trust needed to resist the Republican onslaught. Let's look at, so basically bullshit people got beat by better bullshitters. Oh, that's what you get for being a little bitch, I guess. Let's look at how this happened step by step over the years, but not as a historical exercise. Not at all. My hope is that by writing this book, I will open Democrats and other progressives' eyes to the many values shared by left and right. Values like the desire to end corporate welfare and convert to a renewable energy solar economy. I will show that the way to defeat Trump going forward is to embrace, not marginalize, issues such as raising minimum wage. These are real-life policies that win big in elections and the voters' hearts. Democrats, as well as some third-party candidates, have to get behind these policies. It's a question of do or just further fade away. Blackness. Come on, Nader, come on. Some intellectual honesty. Where are you trying to do this? This is your thesis. Let's look at your stated proposals. Your hope is that by writing this book, you'll open Democrats and other progressives' eyes to the many values shared by the left and right. Okay, so your first goal is to left progressive. So these terms, progressive and Democrats, you're speaking to them, this group of people you categorize now. I don't even know if I lump myself in that category. You want them to see the shared values by the left and the right. So these people supposedly are the left, and then so it's just more categorization. And that's where you got this To the Ramparts titles from the French Revolution, where they would sit in the house, and the people on the left representing the people, and the people on the right representing the lords, or whatever the fuck that history is. Is it relevant to nowadays? I don't know. If we keep using it, then does that mean that the same power structures are still in play? Are there the same dynastic families and ambitions and fucking classes and when was that? After the Industrial Revolution, you had a king, and then you had courtesans, and you had the fucking royals, and you had the banks, and then you had the Industrial Revolution, you have the merchant class becoming very strong too, just like we have the tech. The tech people have joined the industrial types, the fucking people who control the economy, right? So you had all those factors going on. So was that all the same con even back then? It was just changing from like hiding the power further and further away. And we have these democracies that don't seem to work, really just wage imperial wars. Oh, look at these people are looking. Some more cute girls outside the phone booth. Come on, Shaz, let's wrap it up. What were we fucking... So he was saying... He wants to open up the Democrats' progressives to how they share similarities with the right. Values like corporate welfare and renewable energy. So he's really doing the corporate, anti-corporate stance. But in order to do that, it's like, I don't know if I trust Nader's understanding of economics or markets. I feel like it might be some sloppy generalizations like what you get from Sanders, which is why I went into the workforce, because I do respect markets and brokering, but at the same time, how much of it is necessary. Basically, that's why anarchism is great. You want the least amount of authority and the most natural self-governing system, but you also want to protect the commons and society itself, the concept of society. Between those two, you'll find the right answer, but it won't happen in ideology, capitalism. It's it's like growing a garden. As least interference as possible, because it's a labor-saving technique, an energy-saving technique. Depends on what your values are, though. Are we actually trying to create a world which has the least amount of authority possible for the most amount of liberty? No, that would be having a discussion about values about liberty and fucking freedom. But instead we have discussions about labor and fucking capital and other shit. We get caught up with that. And both of those, whether communist or capitalist, march themselves towards an authoritarian state because of their ideology. Whereas if you're talking about freedom, anarchism versus authority, you're going to develop authority as much as you can to have everything as self-governing as possible, which is just common sense. When you raise children, you raise them to be self-sufficient. The best authority devolves itself. A doctor heals you. He doesn't keep you beholden to the doctor. This is all common sense. Now the world makes sense. There's a lot of confusion in the mind of Ralph Nader and other people like him, but he did good research. He's a good nerd. We're going to steal some of his research, steal some of his quotes, some of his data. We are not going to be a follower like him because he's ineffective. Hasn't done shit except talk, but it's okay. We still love you.